Hey everyone, Gary Simon of Coursetro. Welcome to part two of the landing page tutorial here for 2018. And in the first video, we designed this right here, this very simple landing page for an app. And now we're going to take that and we're going to write HTML and CSS to make it a reality in the browser. We're also going to do a little bit of animation with the SVG graphics themselves. So the first step that we need to focus on here. Oh, but real quick, before we begin, make sure you check out my site, Coursetro.com, where you're going to find a bunch of courses on modern design and development. A lot are free, and the others you can access for the cost of buying me like a 6-pack each month. That's it. Now, also, it probably wouldn't hurt to subscribe here on YouTube, and be sure to make sure the notifications are turned on. All right, let's get back to it. Is exporting all of the various assets that we're going to need. And I went ahead and kind of skipped just a tad bit, but the only thing I did was group up some of these things, some of the assets into groups. So the very first group that we want to concern ourselves with is the candlestick background. You want to make sure that all of the individual lines here and these thicker rectangles are a part of the same group called candle BG. And so again, just to select, for instance, if I wanted to show you real quickly the process of doing this, it's very easy to group things. So if I just, let's do unlock and then let's go ahead and ungroup. So now we have all of these freaking layers. How would you select all of them? Very simple. So let's just select everything and then I'll hold shift to deselect the parts that I don't want. So I don't want any of that. So now I just have the background. So Control G, it's in a group. To rename it, you can double click on it or right click and rename, and we'll call it Candle BG. All right, so that's the first group that you want. The next group is going to be this monitor in and of itself, not the little chat blips on top. Watch, if I move it, you'll see that's the only thing that should be its own group. Name it monitor right here. Also, each of these three should be their own group. So inside each of them, and by the way, one is named iota, the other is dash, and the other is ETH. If I double click on this, we'll see that we just have mainly just three different paths here. All right. So once you have all of that ready to go, then what we can do is go ahead and export, which will be in SVG format, what we need. All right, so what we'll need here is the logo. Now I'm holding shift while I select these. You can also hit the control key. The logo, the candle BG, the monitor, and then our three cryptocurrency chat blips. Once you have those 6 selected, we can go to export. Sorry, my phone's going off. Make sure it's on SVG, and we'll use embed. We'll use file size, optimize. We're just going to minify it. And you want to change this into a new folder. I called it LP demo. This is a blank folder I created just for this tutorial here. So go ahead and create a new folder, whatever you want to name it. And then we're going to store these inside of a new folder called, we'll just call it images. You can call it assets, whatever. Select folder and then export. Okay. So with any luck, everything will have worked, and now we'll go to our code editor. So I'm using Visual Studio Code. It's a free code editor from Microsoft. They actually used Electron to build it, which is something I cover here. And we have that new folder, LP demo, opened up. We can see our images, all that stuff right here. Awesome. So the first thing, just to get out of the way, I'm not going to be using a robust development environment for this. I really just wanted to keep it simple, strict HTML and CSS. That's it. So I'm not going to be using Sass. I'm not going to be using live browser reloading. I just want to keep it very simple. So we're going to create a new file called index.html. And I'm going to hit the exclamation point and just hit enter. And I'll give us some quick HTML boilerplate going. Now I want to link a new style sheet. So rel equals style sheet. Make sure, by the way, I'm going to hit Control plus to get us a little bit larger. Style sheet. And then href equals, we'll call it css/main.css. So let's go ahead and create that folder, CSS, and then inside of CSS, we're going to make a main.css. All right, and now we are ready to rock. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of do like a split. Well, maybe not. No, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. What I'm going to do is we're just going to start off with the HTML and get all of that out of the way first. So going back to basics, we have to ask ourselves, we have to try to think in terms of containers. So the biggest containing element that we have is just this entire piece itself, and that will contain and hold this background right here. So we're going to make a div ID of home container. All right. And then we're going to have a div ID of inner. Inner will be in relation to this section right here. So it's going to be column 1. Column 2 will be this monitor. All right, so we're going to call that column 2, let's see, illustration, because that's essentially what it is. All right, so I'm going to hit Control B, by the way, to get rid of the sidebar. So next we're going to have the content that's inside of inner, which is the logo, headline, subheadline, and call to action. So we'll just do heading 1 here. This is crypto plus chat equals crypts. I'm in the crypts, man. Not quite. I'm a lame, nerdy white kid. I will never be in the crypts. Slack meets real-time cryptocurrency. I think that's what it is. Something like that. And then we're going to have an A, href, going nowhere for now. We're going to give it a class, though, of call to action, or CTA. And this will be join up or sign in. By the way, I did in the mockup have a little triangle here icon. I'm not going to mess with that. You could export that as a SVG and put that in as an image inside of the anchor, but yeah, not going to mess with that. So that's it for that section. Oh, nope, I missed the actual logo. So image ID equals logo. We'll reference that in CSS. And then source is, let's see here. What did I name that? Images. Okay, so it's images / logo.svg. All right, so next we have our illustration column, and that is simply a series of images. So the first one is, let's see, assets. Nope, sorry. It's images / dash.svg. The ID is going to be dash, so we can reference that specifically to position it. And then class is going to equal, let's see here what I want to name it. We'll just call it crypto icons. All right, so in Visual Studio Code, we can hit Shift Alt and the down arrow key, and we'll do that 3 times. All right, so next is going to be iota. Next after that will be Ethereum, or ETH. And this is the monitor. This doesn't need that class. All right, so that's it for the HTML. As you can see, absolutely dead simple, not doing anything really too complex here. Okay, so let's go ahead and just, for the heck of it, open this up in a browser, reveal an explorer. We'll double click this. It's going to look like garbage, I guarantee you. And yes, of course it does. Okay. So let's go ahead and get this a little bit better looking. All right, so the first thing I want to do is we're going to import the Montserrat font in our main.css. So this is what that looks like. We're going to import URL. Here is the URL, and we're using the weights of 300 and 700. All right, so next we'll have our body in HTML, and we'll say font family is Montserrat, if that's how you even pronounce it, sans serif. And then we'll make height 100% and margin 0. Also for body, I'm going to have a background, and this is going to be our background color in the mockup, which is F4, F4, F4. And the URL is going to be images and candlebg.svg. All right. So actually, I think we should make that go out a folder. All right. So then we can say background size is cover. So let's save that real quick. We'll refresh. We can see the background behind all this large crap back here. So that's good so far. Now let's go ahead and we will start doing the rest of the CSS. So we're gonna use the CSS Grid, which is a new way to structure, or a relatively new way to structure your layouts, and it's going to become very popular in 2018 for sure. So we're going to say home container, which is our first div element, display grid. We're going to have grid template columns, and this is where we structure the actual columns of the layout. So if we look here, we could see that we have really one column here and another column here. I found it easy. There might be a better approach. I found it most easy to just have 4 columns with 2 empty ones right here. So to do that, we're going to use 0.5 FR, and that's a specific unit for basically applying kind of fractions. 1 FR and 1 FR, these are going to be equal, and then 0.5 FR. So I don't think fractions was the best way to describe that. But what's happening here, let's just save this real quick. Actually, let's add a couple more properties. Grid gap, we'll say 10 pixels. So that's the amount of space between the grid columns. And then real quickly, grid template areas are going to be left, right, and period. So each one of these is a value that's in relation, and it's naming each one of these columns right here. Okay, so the second one is left, which is in reference to this section, and then right is right here. Okay, and finally, we'll put in height 100%. Let's save this. All right, so we're getting there, but not quite. So we have to define where it says left and right onto our inner and illustration divs. So to do that, we'll just put in, let's see here, inner, grid area, left, and then we're also going to do align self, center, and justify self, center. Now let's also real quickly do the same thing for our illustration div. And this is going to be grid area right. Align self, all that stuff. We're going to take the width from 100% to 80 because the one portion was showing up too large. So now, as you can see, once we gave it a grid area name of left, it shows up where it's supposed to be, as shown here. All right, so we're making progress slowly but surely. All right, so continue on, let's go ahead and focus on the logo. I'm gonna put image logo. That will be width of 130 pixels, a margin bottom of 1.6 EM. And I'll go back real quick and refresh. That's better. And then we'll also have our H1 for our headline. Text transform, we're going to make it all uppercase. Color is going to be 535353. By the way, if you need to reference to your specific colors that you're using, you just click here, there you go. The hex is right there. Same thing with the background. You click on the name of the canvas. Here's the fill, and there's that. All right, so also continuing on, and then margin bottom, we're gonna give ourselves some space, 0.2 EM. So now let's go ahead and refresh that. All right, coming along. And then we're going to have p.subtitle. This is going to be a font size of 1.4 EM. Color is not quite black, so it's 8585. And margin top is 0. And the other reason I know how to give them specific margins is because when I went through this beforehand, I was noticing some areas weren't aligning. So that's how you define margin, or you experiment with the margin in the padding as you need to. So let's also do the call to action button. And that is a class of CTA. So that's background color. And at a 09, let's see, BBE9, that blue, padding of 1 EM, color inside for the text is white. We'll have font weight of bold, a margin top of 2 AM, display inline block, border radius is going to be 5 pixels, and then text decoration is none. Whew, okay, let's see what that does. All right, a lot better. All right, so that's basically it for that section. So now let's worry about the actual monitor and all of that good stuff. So the monitor div, let's find that real quick, or define it rather, is going to be, actually, it's not going to have anything right now. We're just going to leave it empty and blank. We're going to focus on the crypto icons class, which each of those have. And so that's going to be position absolute, and we'll make the width about 12%. So if we refresh, you can see now the size is much more consistent. And you want to use percentage simply because if you use like say 50 pixels, if it scales down, these won't scale down with the size of the monitor. So you don't want that. All right, so let's continue on. We also have, let's see here, we have dash, and this will be a margin top of -4%, a margin left of 9%. So if I save this right away, and we'll see that it is now placed it where roughly we had it in the mockup, I believe at least. So let's copy this, and we'll make this ETH and iota. So ETH for margin top is 9.5% down from its original position, and then the margin left is 18%, so it's pushing it over quite a bit. Actually, I was wrong. That was supposed to go here. All right, so that's for Ethereum. All right, and then iota is supposed to be 5% and -1.5. So 5% here, -1.5 there. So let's see if that works. Perfect. Exactly as we want it. All right, so this obviously, if we scale this into like a mobile, it's not quite mobile friendly, but I'm not going to really worry about responsiveness in this tutorial. Just kind of want to get moving on. So now we're going to make this animate in such a way that it should look interesting. So to do that, we'll go ahead and let's see here. Well, the first thing we'll do is animate the monitor. We'll just kind of have that fade in and down. So animation, we're going to call it monitor in. It's going to be about 1 second long, and we're going to use ease in out, and then we'll say forwards because we don't want it to repeat. We're also going to set it as opacity 0 by default. Also, don't forget about your vendor prefixes. I'm not going to do that here. All right, so for monitor in, we define that through at keyframes, monitor in, from, this will be transform, translate Y on the vertical axis, -30 pixels, and then opacity is 0. I'll copy this just to make our life a little bit easier and paste it, change this to, And this will be 1 and 0. All right, so let's see how that works out. All right, cool. So it's overlapping right now simply because we need to do a little bit of work on getting those little icons to show up, the chat blips. So now for dash, for instance, we'll go ahead and we'll say the animation. Oops, I can't type or spell. Animation is going to be called chat blips at 0.5 seconds for this one, ease in, out. And we'll say a delay of 2.7 seconds and then forwards. The opacity is going to be 0 and the Z index, so it stays on top of the monitor, will be 2. And I'm just going to copy this and paste it in each of these. And this will be, let's see here. We're going to change our Ethereum right here to 1.3 seconds, so they're not going to all come in at the same time. And the iota one will be 1.7 seconds. No, 1.3, sorry about that. All right, so now we have to define chat blip. So let's copy this, oops, and paste this, chat blips. All right, so for this one, we're gonna actually use more than just from and to. We're gonna have a multi-step animation. All right, so if you check out angrytools.com/CSS/animation, it's one of the many keyframe-based animation tools for CSS, and it will give you just some ideas. So if we choose the sample, like bounce in, for instance, you'll see it'll show you what it looks like when it bounces in. We're going to use that one. So to use that one, we'll go ahead and just come down and copy only the percentage values here. And I'm going to paste those right in here. Let's go ahead and save. That was terrible. 1 second. Yeah, we have to make an adjustment real quick. We're gonna have to say opacity is gonna stay at 1 right here. And I think 2 of these have the same. Yeah, sorry about that. Let's go ahead and we'll make Ethereum 1.9 and this will be 0.8. There. Now let's go ahead and try that again. Yeah, awesome. So you could even take this a step further and animate the individual elements inside of this SVG file right here. But we're not going to do that. I think that's a pretty good stopping point for where I want to be. All right, so yeah, make sure, if you enjoyed this, to subscribe here. I'm going to be doing a ton of more tutorials here in 2018, and also check out coursetro.com. All right, see you later.